Let the record show we have 2 of our members attending via WebEx, so we will do roll call votes for our items tonight. The first item on our agenda is the minutes of our previous meeting from 1/26 of 21, copies of which were in the packets. Any revisions or corrections to the minutes needed? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by Martins. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote on the minutes. Herbst?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye as well, and the minutes are approved. Item number 2 is discussion and possible action regarding a modification to the procurement policy to reflect federal micro purchase threshold limit of $10,000. And you've got some information in your packets on that. And Mary Ann, did you want to walk us through that quickly?
Sure. So currently, purchases over $5,000 need to have some documentation as to what the department did for procurement, their competitive quotes that they received. They need to issue a purchase order for all purchases over $5,000. The federal government has recently increased their threshold to $10,000. And so we're suggesting that we stay in step with the federal government. We have a number of departments that are required to follow federal guidelines because of their funding sources. And so this would eliminate the need to have conflicting regulations.
Sure.
And it's, it's basically just alleviating the documentation between the 5,000 and 10,000. We're not telling departments to still spend their money wisely. And I know departments still receive quotes,
Sure.
but it's just the administrative logging of all of the, I guess, decision process for purchases under 10,000. As well as they wouldn't, if they did choose to sole source, there would be no requirements to document that sole source under 10, and they wouldn't be required to complete a purchase order.
Okay. Well, and we have tried to streamline the process all along for small purchases.
Yes.
Because then you can react and purchase the things a little quicker too, rather than waiting for
Yes.
processes like this. Committee members, any questions for Mary Ann on the change? If not, is there a motion to approve the change? Motion by Ryan, is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Martins?
Aye.
Herbst?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye as well, and that item passes unanimously. Item number 3 is discussion and approval of reprogramming of homeowner rehabilitation revolving loan funds into a public facility project, acquisition of 364 Grand Avenue for Community Partners Campus, and the substantial amendment of the 2020 Community Development Block Grant Cdbg Action Plan. And you've got some information in your packets on that project. It looks like Community Partners Campus, which we've been long awaiting, has located an alternative location to run their operation from. And we do have Tammy Stratz on WebEx if you guys have questions for her about the reprogramming of these funds. But it looks like the citizen panel did approve these unanimously when they had their hearing. Any questions for Tammy at all? Deb, go ahead.
Okay, hi Tammy. I guess in reading the information about this community project, I was under the impression that they had $3 million of their own planned on for the planning for this community effort.
If you read the application from Community Partners, they have, at the time that they came to our committee, they had raised about $350,000. They're anticipating the project to be about $3 million. So they hadn't raised that amount yet. So
Okay.
it's part of the $3 million.
Okay, I guess I was under the impression from some other media that they planned on $3 million. I guess in light of that, I guess I cannot support this. I do feel that there is another option. The old Sears building, which, with the updated plans, it's just, doesn't seem like anybody wants to build there. If the rest of the mall is torn down, and it would be converted into a park, and it's a lot closer to the central bus location. With only raising 350,000, I mean, they're not anywhere like the Warren Pool was that the county approved matching once $3 million was raised on the private side. And I do realize it would have some consolidation of a number of buildings that would be consolidated. But at this point, with so many people looking for affordable housing, and that we'll have more further discussion on affordable housing in the next year, I just think that City of Wausau rehab program, this would be ideal in advocating for people interested in buying a home to buy a used home. Like I have a 100-year-old home, and its recent replacement value has gone up to $204,000, but tax-wise, I'm paying on a value of $85,000. And I do think that we should keep those rehab dollars for being used to rehab a number of properties. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I would just add, I've had some contact with the CPC campus project in my role on the Homelessness Task Force. And one of the subcommittees that I'm currently serving on is one that is diagnosing solutions to the problem of connecting people who need services with agencies who provide them. And our task force has determined that half of the struggles that people experiencing homelessness find is that first there's a lack of knowledge about the extent of the services that are out there and how to get them, and then they're spread all over town. And so this particular campus is a key focus of that task force in connecting the people who need help with agencies that provide help without having to traverse the city 3 or 4 times to get to all of the agencies that a person needs to get to, because chances are there's a group of services that those folks are eligible for and that they need. And so the work that's been happening with the CPC campus, you'll recall at first they believed that, well, they were very interested in the 1300 Cleveland site. We know that that's not an option, and so based on some testing delays and some early findings, they then began to look for another site, and they found one that actually also allows them to expand. So if additional agencies decide to partner with them, there's room for the CPC campus to grow. We could not put them in a facility where they're essentially confined once they fill the space. And they do have some options to grow in this new site that they've found. So there's a whole lot of excitement in the nonprofit community about finally seeing this project take flight. And, based on what I've heard, their fundraising effort is kind of following, I guess you'll recall maybe, I want to say 12-ish years ago, the women's community was in a similar situation where they were looking to move. They had a plan, but they didn't have a site. They had troubles with the first site. They ended up securing a second site. But their fundraising in earnest was very difficult until they actually had a site they could call home. It's easy to market a concept, but it's difficult to get people to donate to a concept if it doesn't have firm roots where the project can start and come to fruition and people can see that happen. So this process is very similar. They have a long way to go with their fundraising, but their fundraising in earnest really hinges on them having a place to do their work. So I think that's maybe why we see that they're kind of in their infancy right now. Michael, go ahead.
Okay, and those are very good comments, but I got a little bit of a question about the money here. So Tammy, maybe you can help. Reading the narrative, it seems like, if we take $150,000 out of the rehabilitation fund that there is an additional 177,000 and change coming into it in new funding. Is that true?
Yes, that's true. Right now we have, without counting the 2021 funds that will be coming from Block Grant, we have just under $178,000 ready to go. And currently I have 6 households on the waiting list. So we could easily fund everybody on the waiting list if we could get the contractors to move faster, or if I could get more willing contractors. That's the holdup right now. So by reprogramming these funds, we are definitely not hurting this program whatsoever.
Okay, yeah, and it also, I think it also said that there's a time limit on these funds, so if we don't use them, we're gonna lose them, or is that?
Correct.
Okay.
If we don't use funds in a timely manner, we have a timeliness test from HUD every October. And if we have too much money in the coffers, we can pretty much get in trouble and lose our funding. So if we get a big loan pool of funds that we can't get out in the community fast, reprogramming them to an eligible activity like this really does help.
So using this money in this purpose, we're not hurting homeowners that are looking to rehabilitate their houses, and also using the funds we have available, we're putting them to good use so we don't have to, in a sense, give it back to the government.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions? Alder Ryan, go ahead.
Thank you. With 5 years at Catholic Charities from 2000 to 2005, I was involved in working with a lot of the affordable housing, and knew Tammy back then too, going to Housing Coalition meetings. And we were located right at 2nd Street, where now the Chamber is located, and had to move, and then moved to the U.S. Bank building, and then eventually moved over by Holy Name, and then in the last few years, Catholic Charities been on South 3rd Avenue. So there's always been a number of agencies that were renting as part of their application, and federal government grant funds, since it would not allow anything for going towards a mortgage. But again, I can see the need for consolidation, but the best location for people trying to go to transit is being downtown, right near the station. And I don't know if this group has ever looked at or cared to look at the Sears building and that end of the building, but it's presently there. It could easily be adaptable. It has the auto area or the area for trucks for unloading. So it is somewhat ideal and could be rehabbed. And I recently received a letter again today saying, why are we tearing all of the mall down? So again, the best location downtown is as close to the bus station as possible. And that's the case. I also wanted to mention that I've worked with Tammy, that a couple of my neighbors that are seniors, one elderly, one in mid-60s, has gotten assistance with their homes in rehabbing. One was done with multiple things being done, including a retaining wall. And the other senior had electrical upgraded for a home over 100 years old, and 220 service, as well as some other improvements. It just happens I had a roof done this fall, and from my understanding and talking to Tammy in the past, that quite often when people come up to looking for rehab money, they may be looking at $40,000 to $50,000 per home, just because of a number of issues and safety issues, and the priority, if there is lead or any type of asbestos, that's kind of the priority first on the list. So yes, by having $170,000, say if there was potentially 10 homeowners, they could be potentially being using $17,000 to rehab their older homes. And we do have a lot of older homes. So, but the average, I think Tammy can address that more, but it may be 40 to 50 depending on how much they use. And again, I guess I don't know why no one has considered the Sears building, but it's a building there with a shell. It could be rehab for a lot cheaper. And at this point, with so little money designated, I can't recommend having this combination being done at a location that is not the best for central public transportation, when it could be done downtown. And then it would take some of our neighbors who are struggling and could need improvements in order to improve their home and keep it affordable to be having that available through the city rehab. So, thank you.
Okay, Mayor, go ahead.
I just want to level set this conversation a little bit. Before we did the budget this year, we gave a survey to all the council members, and one of the top priorities of every single council member that responded was addressing homelessness and poverty in our city. And here's a project where there's an opportunity to do just that. Despite it not being in the heart of downtown, it is blocks away from downtown, right next to the CDA. It will be good. The team has a letter, an intent to purchase that building. The Sears building is not for sale. It is just not available for them. So that's why they're not buying that. This building is for sale, and they have that intent. So just want to throw that out there for you, for your consideration. This is really exciting. I know that this will be really good for our community.
Okay, thank you for that. With that, do we have we can accept a motion. We haven't taken a motion yet. Do we have a motion to accept this item? Motion by Martins.
I'll make a
Is there a
motion.
second? Second by Watson. Deb, did you have an additional comment? Right, I see your hand. Deb, do you have an additional comment? Before we vote, go ahead with it.
Yes, I just like to know, has the group ever looked at Sears, and why has not been considered?
It's not for sale. Laws owns it, so.
Okay.
Well, we're giving money to WAS, so I don't understand why that was not being considered. It's already a shell that could be made into any different way. And
My understanding.
the city could have some influence on this. And I don't agree with using rental rehab funds, which is helping neighbors in a lot of older homes that are over 50,000 in needs. And according to Eric and the Water Commission, eventually these rehab funds might be needed to do the lead replacement on the homeowner side. So I don't agree with using those funds. We do have a number of agencies. I agree it could help being consolidated, but there's other locations that are right downtown, right, that would be a good option for people that are having to take the bus. Thank you.
Thank you for that. With that, with a motion and a second on the floor, seeing no additional comment, we'll go ahead and vote on the item. Martins?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Herbst? Aye. Ryan?
No.
And I'll vote aye. Let the record show that has passed 4-1. Item number 4 is discussion and approval of the reprogramming of rental energy assistance funds to a nonprofit energy assistance forgivable loan fund. And you've got some information in your packets on that as well. Also, if you have questions on that, we can certainly ask Tammy. Does anyone have questions on that repurpose? If not, is there a motion to approve that item? Motion by Martins, is there a second? Second by Herbst. Further discussion? Seeing none, we can go ahead and vote on that item. Watson?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
Ryan?
No.
Herbst? Aye. I'll vote aye as well, and that item will also pass 4-1. Discussion and, item number 5 is discussion and possible action regarding a sole source request for purchase and installation of alerting system for fire stations number 1 and number 3. You'll recall that when we built fire station number 2, we installed a new style of alerting system, and with our CIP rankings, they had requested that we install similar alerting technology in the other 2 stations. And this sole source request, I believe, pertains to that, so that they have the same type of technology in all 3 facilities. We do have Chief Kujawa on WebEx with us if you guys have questions for her. But their sole source documentation in the packets was pretty complete. If there's not questions for the chief, is there a motion to approve the request? Motion by Herbst, is there a second? Second by Watson. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. Herbst? Aye. Watson?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Martins?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye as well. That passes unanimously. Item number 6 is discussion and possible action regarding the November 2020 General Fund Financial Report, and we'll turn it over to Mary Ann to walk us through that.
Sure. So I guess, just to keep the committee updated, I know everybody is interested in getting some final numbers. I'm hoping that the first meeting in March, we'll have some final numbers for the committee to review. When we're looking at our revenues, there are a number of areas where we will fall short this year in revenues. Licenses, you can see through November, we are short on budget about $50,000. We expect that will remain at year end. The lion's share of that is related to the discounts that we provided on our restaurant and liquor-related licenses, as well as just a basic decrease in the licensing of bartenders because all of the facilities were operating at limited capacity. There was less need for personnel. Fines and forfeitures, again, we are expecting that to be pretty significantly, I would guess, will be about $130,000 under budget in that area. We have been experiencing declines in fines and forfeitures the last number of years. Of course, this year it was even further impacted by the fact that during Safer at Home, and perhaps even subsequent to that, the police department really wasn't doing much in the way of enforcement of traffic-related citations. Public charges for services, there again, you can see under the public safety category, that is the main component of that is our EMS runs or our ambulance runs. There again, we're going to see a shortfall. The primary cause of that is, again, COVID, because people are so hesitant to seek health care unless absolutely required. So we expect that will be under budget at year end. The parks categories, recreation, public areas, those we expect to be under at year end due to limited activities in the summer months and in the winter months for that matter. Under the intergovernmental charges, under county and other municipalities, we might see a decline there, a negative budget to actual due to some of the activities between the police department and the school district. But we also, some of those revenues, while they're not submitted as such, are offset by our Roads to Recovery grant of $451,000. So that is a positive. And we did see, some areas where we still had a very strong budget to actual. Interest income was still in good condition. Our permitting for buildings still showed positive budget to actual variance. So it wasn't all bad news in the revenue area. As far as expenses are concerned, we are finishing up the year in pretty darn good shape. Areas, elections, while it shows it's over budget, we had several grants that came in that more than offset that over expense. You can see that what we accumulated in the emergency government, so that was generally PPE, things like that, was 224,000, but our grant was 450. The difference being expenses that were submitted that really were accumulated in other departmental line items. Another area, so those are the main, the other area that I wanted to mention is the fire department. That you can see they had 334,000 left at the end of November. That will likely be overdrawn at year end. There were several retirements this year towards year end, and of course, those retirements involve payout of sick leave.
Yep.
And so we expect that that will be overdrawn at year end. But otherwise, from an expenditure standpoint, we are looking in very good shape.
Excellent. Anyone have questions for Mary Ann on the report? If not, we'll place the report on file. That is the last item on our agenda for finance tonight. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ryan, is there a second? Second by Herbst. Members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
No one's ever opposed. We'll stand adjourned, and council will then begin in this chamber at 6:30. So thanks, everyone.